It's my pleasure to award an Employee of the Month for Glenn Woodfin. Look at him smiling, sitting back there. He looks like the cat who ate the canary. Not to be confused with me. One in. He's got his dress shirt on tonight. He works on Friday apart from the ribbon cutting. Unless you hold this and I get to see what they was saying about you, bragging on you.
He's a sweetheart.
For May 2023, I'd like to nominate Street Department employee Glenn Woodfin for Employee of the Month. The Street Department is a small, multi-function group of men tasked with a plethora of projects with varying degrees of difficulty. Glenn Woodfin is one of those folks who can do just about anything. But beyond Glenn's regular job scope, he can do work, landscaping, framing, trim work with metal, steel, ceramic tiles, and flooring, and much, much more. Anything you can do? Cook? During our recent parade project, Glenn had his hand in most of the construction of the park. Whereas I was more involved with the layout of these structures, Glenn was tasked with directing the crew and how to actually construct the structures and features. On Lincoln Park project alone, Glenn was involved in wood and steel framing, setting the timbers for the stage, construction of the block terrace beds, wood framing, on both buildings, grate work, landscaping, sculpting of the grounds, installing outdoor lighting, grading, and asphalting of the parking area, and about 100 other items. I'd say that's true. To say that Glenn was invaluable to the successful completion of Lincoln Park would be an understatement. There are so many moving pieces to the Lincoln Park project that our crew and many others were involved in. I just wanted to take this opportunity to shine the spotlight on one of the key players in that large, complex project. Everyone involved in the park project did a fantastic job, but I feel Glenn Woodfin deserved a special word of recognition and thanks. For those reasons, Glenn Woodfin is my choice of Employee of the Month. That's Malcolm Highsmith.
Very well done on team effort, and I'm glad we made it through Friday.
Thank you. Thank you, Glenn, for everything you did.
I remember Glenn for Lincoln.
Yeah, you got a hat.
That's supposed to take care of that.
All right. Next item on our agenda is citizens' comments. If you're one of our residents or one of our product users, you're welcome to get up and speak to our board. Anyone here to speak to us? Yes. Will, please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Barry Degner, and I live at 61 Halifax Street. The first thing I wanted to say was that I wanted to just thank everybody that was involved in the Lincoln Park project. It, to me, came out beautiful, and I know all the work that was done there, and if you haven't been there, go. The second thing I wanted to mention was the main entranceway to New Halifax, that when you go to leave, has a big, pothole there, and for a couple of years now, people have come out and looked at it and said, well, it's going to be a major project because it's all sunk down and that kind of a thing. I can appreciate that, but can't we do a temporary repair, like a pothole fix or something like that? Because every time I drive my car out of there, the bottom scrapes on the thing, and it does nothing but get worse. And I think that if you want to keep the major repair on the bottom of the list, okay, fine. But can't you at least fix it like a pothole?
I have a question. What's dragging, your Audi convertible or?
Yes.
Yeah. It's forward, that makes sense. agree with you, Gary. I guess we got the jack of all trades Glenn here, he'll probably jump right on that. So we'll get Glenn and them to look at that and see why we're, it's the time of year we need to start Tahoe, so, yeah, we'll get to. All right, anyone else? Allison?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Best. This is Susan Jackson, if you don't already know her. She's the treasurer, and I'm here tonight with the State of Chapter Daughters of the American Revolution, and our comment really is to say thank you. I put a letter on your desk there, and Susan Jackson is our patriotism chair and also our award-winning treasurer, because our books are always in order, and we've always got all of our dues paid early. And we had our 118th annual conference about 2 weeks ago, and Susan and I went together, and we were so fortunate that last year our chapter focused on patriotism. You know, DAR is a nonprofit, non-political volunteer women's service organization with the missions of education, historic preservation, and patriotism, which includes serving our veterans who walk in those patriot footsteps. Well, at this event, 3 days of workshops and different types of things that occur, we were awarded 3 first places of the whole state. And one of them was for the most number of flags distributed, the other one was for the most number of flags retired, and the other one was for the most number of greeting cards written to veterans. And that may not seem like a very big deal, but when you look at the large state and how few people from East Tennessee make it all the way to Franklin for that 3-day event, we were so proud, and the number was so great. We were asked about it by all of the state leadership, and we're really here tonight to say how proud we are to live in a community that supports these projects. To thank you for that, because other communities don't have that. They don't have a leadership like we have in Washington County and in the town of Jonesborough who take an interest in these types of projects. And we were able to retire over 5,000 flags last year. And that's, of course, working with Susan Jackson, coordinating and collaborating with all these other service organizations. So I wanted to pass the good news all the way around to the community and share that with y'all, that it may not seem like a big deal when we come and ask for a resolution or a proclamation or something, but it's seen across the state as a reflection on our community and the leaders here, and we wanted to bring that back to you. The second thing is I get to share the very good news that last week our little chapter was the source of 2 historic preservation grants being awarded from National Daughters of the American Revolution. Each one is for $10,000.
Wow.
And so we're really excited about that. Obviously, these nonprofit organizations have to do all the work, but they do ask for support letters. So I've copied the letter that we were able to provide to the Heritage Alliance for the Duncan House project. So I know you're going to hear all the details from Ann Mason. She's an amazing executive director, and she, asked me for that. I seen Dr. Kennedy here. He let me stop him on the sidewalk one day and ask questions to make sure I didn't misstate the architectural significance of the Duncan House, since it's such a mix. So our chapter's been here since 1929. You know that. We just had an event yesterday in Broylesville. It was the first time we've marked a monument for revolutionary patriots in anyone's recent memory. 3 out there at the Broylesville Mill, and more than 100 people came from all over Kentucky, Florida, Texas, California, because they're either a Broyles or related branches. They stayed in B&Bs, hotels, bought gas, ate food, and everything else. Loved the community. So that was yesterday. That was Saturday. We had music out there. We have also, of course, done our annual work with our K through 8s. So we've distributed those citizenship awards for those young people out there, and we headed to Crockett last week. Yes. Susan delivered the ROTC award, and we'll be going to Crockett for the other one. So my personal goal, if I could reach out to you and tell you this, is, I was raised here, born here, raised in Texas, came back a DAR member. I had been a DAR member for a long time. Maybe not as active, but I would love to find these local patriot families. It's wonderful when people move here and they come and they bring and they tell the stories of their Maryland patriot or something, but we have so many people here locally who don't know that their ancestors are the ones who fought the freedom. So if you know anyone, would you please encourage them to reach out to me? I think it would make such a difference to our school children if they knew, like my mother when she was at Science Hill, if she had known that her ancestor had been at the surrender of Cornwallis at the Battle of Yorktown. Might that have made a difference? She loved history, but maybe for another child it could be different. So that, in the next year that I have to finish my 3-year term as regent, or 2-year term, because it's a 2-year term, excuse me, that's my personal goal. So I did want to, besides saying thank you, make a wee little ask. If you know someone, a woman who would let us help with her genealogy to honor her patriot, we would be honored to do that. So appreciate y'all very much.
Thank you, guys. All right, anyone else?
Jack Van Zant, 164 New Halifax Street. And I just wanted to thank you really for the sidewalk. We've been seeing that as a dream for a long time, and we've finally seen reality. And also thank you for Lincoln Park. I know the work that went out there, and it's a beautiful job as we always do, and great job for Rachel and Glenn and just the team on here, volunteers and staff that have really given their all to get it done. I also know that Glenn, the way he does things, he'll be working on budget and make sure that we have money to maintain that thing once we get it going there. And because it's one thing to put up a park, it's another thing to maintain it. So I urge you to keep that in mind. And also a park to money to be protecting the park, because it and all other parks need to be protected, have some form of police protection around and things like that, especially the way things are going with some other cities around the country. Or even our streets, our buildings are irreplaceable. If one is burned down, knocked down, or whatever, you can't really replace it to what it is today. The Jackson Theater is another one that is coming up, and we're just becoming a magnet for new visitors, new tourists, new residents, and so we've got to keep ahead of the curve. And I guess also I wanted to tag on to Gary here. He's talking about the front entrance in New Halifax. That alley behind that house and the front end where I go in all the time. I don't use that front entrance until the potholes don't work for my VW. I hope I get my truck in okay, but there's a bunch of them.
Well, I will say this, and in all seriousness, Lincoln Park's been a priority. We know there's street issues that need to be addressed, and so that's the next chapter.
Yeah, we're sensitive to that, and, but I just wanted to bring it up to you. There's a lot of margin holes back there, and when it rains, they fill with water and get even more. So if we can get those things done, that would be great. But thank you for great work, as always, from the town. So.
Thank you, Jack. Ruth.
I'm Ruth Verhage. I live at 601 West Main Street here in Jonesborough, and I thought Allison would tell you all about this, so I just wanted to be sure and do it. On June 14th at noon, there will be a ceremony celebrating the flag. That is Flag Day. It's always June 14th. So we will have it again here at Town Hall at the flagpole, and I'd love to see you all. Our speaker is Glenn Rosenoff this year.
Oh, Sam? Brilliant.
Are we allowed to bring vegetables with us? Okay, all right.
Thank you, Ruth. Looking forward to that.
say noon?
Good evening, Dana Helby, 100 East Woodrow. My background before I moved to this wonderful town a year and a half ago, I was a volunteer safety officer for the second largest volunteer department in the state of Colorado. I was taking a look this last week when we had our event on Main, and I understand that there was quite a few tickets that were sold like almost last minute. It was really unexpected. So I think part of what we all do is we learn, and I really appreciate what Mayor Vest said. I think we take a look and we step back and we say, okay, if we cannot predict it, then what we better do is prepare. And so I guess I'd like to sort of just second that voice about closing down Main for special events. But I had two businesses on Main Street, one back in the day, the 80s and the 90s, and I was on a Main Street board. We had a Main Street that had 4 lanes, 2 lanes each direction, and we continually battled back and forth about closing down part of our Main Street for a pedestrian walkway. And it was about the same makeup as Jonesborough, and there were people that just didn't want to do that. They were convinced that their customers needed to park right outside the door. We did surveys that showed that that wasn't happening. What actually was happening is that the owners and their employees were parking outside the door. But we fought. It didn't happen. We actually saw the downtown deteriorate a bit, and then COVID hit. Well, COVID, the restaurants in Durango is the second highest restaurant per capita in the United States, short of San Francisco. Well, was, but they're probably number 1 now. A lot of restaurants, they couldn't go inside. And so immediately, everybody got together and they closed down 1 lane each way. It's sort of funny, but right now, it's still that way. They opened up past COVID, but they got so happy with having that pedestrian walkway and the comments coming back from the tourists saying, wow, I never saw this town like this. Last October, when we had the storytelling festival, when everybody's running to and from the tents, I stopped and I just enjoyed just walking up and down Main. And I guess I'd like to encourage you the next time that you feel that it's safe to do so is to give that a shot. And then ask yourself, what if? We are growing. We have people coming from different areas. And the economy is uncertain. People, I believe, are going to be looking closer to town to do things. They may not be able to afford those big vacations. What are they looking for? An experience. Look what happened this last week, last minute. Tickets. Hey, honey, what do you want to do? Hey, Jonesborough's doing. Well, if things are conducive to pedestrian traffic, it's like that cart and horse thing. What comes first? How about closing down Main between Fox and First, between the time that you have the Friday night music and Saturday afternoon, late. Put the farmers market, if they'd like to do that, put them on Main. Right now, people go to the farmers market, they go to the back of the courthouse, get in their car, and go. Let's move them up a little bit closer to Main, let them walk around, maybe have a booth at the DAR talking about what they do. Maybe have somebody else, maybe have a food truck, maybe have a musician, maybe have almost like a welcome wagon. We have so many people that are moving in. They want to get together, they want to get to know people. Something like that we can do, and we can do it with volunteer, we can do it very little cost. So anyway, I just wanted to sort of put that bug in the air. Sometimes we keep on doing the same thing because it's the fear of change, and sometimes we just have to confront that, and we have to say, well, let's just try it. Let's just give it a go and see what happens. That's all I've got to say.
Yep.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Dana. All right, anyone else? All right, very good. I want to point out, we've got Alicia Summers out here. She's with the Washington County Economic Development Council. It's nice to have you here, Alicia. Is there anything you want to share with us tonight? I know your item was something that we put into the consent agenda, so it was approved.
done.
Yep.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Very much.
Anything you'd like to add to that, or?
No, not really. I would like to say, though, if at any time you'd like me to come in and do a report on economic development activity, I'm more than happy to do that.
Oh, thank you, Alicia. Most of the other things that we added to that consent agenda was really just events, maintenance contract with the state, so anyone here to listen, interested in that maintenance contract, that was approved earlier too. All right, now we'll move into Alderman Communications. Alderman, anything you want to share with the town tonight? Virginia?
I would like to say that I submitted the questions as I was asked by you all at the last meeting. I have got several answers. There's several that's still out there that I would like to ask again, if we can discuss them at the work session, maybe at the budget work session that we're doing, because they're items that we need to know the financial end on them.
Okay. Yeah, we certainly can do that during that budget discussion, I think. Anything else? Good? I know you guys.
Do I look like I want to say something?
I'm going to make you.
Well, first of all, there's a lot of bright, smiling faces out here tonight, and it's great to see such a good-looking crowd. And I really do mean that, Jack. You're good-looking tonight. So, but no, it's great to see everybody, and it's a healthy thing when you have public participation in your town meetings. So, thank you for being here. We hope it's worth what you paid to be here, the price of admission. Second thing, I'll confess that Dana and I have had a discussion or two about what he talked about tonight, rather eloquently, by the way. Dana, good job. We've got such a natural kind of confluence of events going on with all these little festivals, all the little weekend stuff, bigger holiday things piling into it. We just passed a bunch more special events tonight. And then you have your anchors, your music on the square, your brews and tunes kicking up, farmers market kicking up during the season. I would like us to have a discussion about a summer schedule where we can plan on maybe our Main Street becoming more or less a public park that people can count on during the summer months when you have the majority of our things going on anyway. And maybe it runs concurrent with the music schedule. Maybe you have it happen some other times too. I think we ought to have a discussion about that. I'm sorry, Matt, Police Chief Matt Rice. I know that's probably not music to your ears, but we do have bollards into the street, and it will take some police presence. I know that, but when you establish habits, and people are establishing or have established habits of coming to Jonesborough when they want to do something, that is a healthy thing for a merchant base, and it's a healthy thing for tourism, and it's a healthy thing just for people in general to be able to socialize and enjoy community together, and to bring the dog, bring the kids, and to be able to do it safely. So we've got plenty of ways to get around that portion of Main Street, as we prove all the time when we have festivals. I would like us to at some point begin that discussion and potentially introduce some times when folks could know that, from Friday afternoon till Sunday afternoon after brews and tunes, it's a place to be. And so, you got food trucks, you got other things. We're going to have obviously some hopefully new folks coming into town. I know I've been talking to one about our restaurant space down at the old post office. So as that critical mass continues to grow, I think that you'll see that situation improve and make it even more attractive. So, I just think we need to encourage a lot of good fellowship and a lot of good habits coming downtown. So, thank you, Dana. I think you're right on point. Very, very much so. Yep.
All right, thank you, Kelly. Yep. I think one thing, our Thursdays have turned into be such good events. So even though the Star Wars, was on a Thursday, and this, so success brings people. It's good. Adam, anything you want to share?
Do want to say thank you to the mayor and aldermen for attending the volunteer recognition, the Jonesborough Community Chest. Put that activity together. 3 individuals were recognized. I won't embarrass anybody. One of them is here this evening, and so I'm very, very glad. Very glad for Dana Lewis. Dana Lewis, Rufus Houston, and Eric White, if I'm not mistaken. Rice. Thank you. Yep. Eric Rice, and he was recognized as the youth volunteer. Yep. So we know that volunteerism is a big piece of making our community cohesive. And so we're very appreciative to our volunteers.
Thank you, Adam. Terry? Very good. All right. Now we'll move into town attorney comments. Jim, you got anything for us?
Very nothing specific, a lot of time spent on things that you just passed in your consent agenda and several items that'll come up toward the end of your agenda tonight.
I appreciate that. Yeah, one thing that, appreciate Jim's work on Darren Beal's project, I guess you would say, to bring that to hopefully a close here soon. Great work there. All right, we'll move into our agenda, and we'll do, first item on the agenda is 7B, discussion and possible action concerning an approval, setting meeting dates for the fiscal year 2023-24 budget process. And there was some thoughts in there about mid-May, May 22nd. Autumn, was any week or days in that week that works for you?
Monday or Tuesday, I'll be gone for a grandchild's graduation on the 24th.
Okay, so Tuesday, Monday's always a bad day for me, but does Tuesday work for everybody that day? That could be the 23rd?
What days are you going? I'll be leaving Wednesday.
You need a Wednesday, Wednesday the 24th you're leaving, so Monday and Tuesday. But Monday's bad for you?
Yeah.
What about
23rd?
That next Tuesday?
Tuesday the 23rd.
What about you, Virginia? 23rd. All right, well, pencil that first date in for May 23rd.
What time are we doing this? During the day or what?
I think night, so it's easier for those that are still working.
Probably at night and stay close to the shower.
6 o'clock or 6:30?
6 is good.
6 p.m. All right, 6 o'clock?
I think you know it.
No, I don't work. Don't worry about it.
And,
Where are we meeting? Storytelling?
storytelling?
We'll check on the
If it's
availability.
available, let's do that.
Other than here, you mean?
Amber's already on it.
We'll meet wherever, it doesn't matter.
All right.
I'm scared. I'm just saying.
What about you? We want to set a second date. I think Glenn was wanting to have at least 3 of them, but we can probably start with 2 and see how it goes from there.
What about, like the 31st there?
That would be fine with me.
May 31st?
Terry, Adam?
You want to tell me I'm out of town then too.
Oh,
Can you take me with you?
when are you available, Terry?
After Monday, June 5th, I'll be here till August.
June 6th?
June 6th works good. Is that good for you?
Yeah, let's say that June 6th is the last one, but probably need something in between the 23rd and the 6th.
Let's do the 31st if everybody can do it, but Terry might have to miss that one. We'll try to
Okay, what time on that one?
do the same time.
The same times?
Okay?
So May 23rd, May 31st, June 6th, 6 p.m., and we'll check the availability at the Storytelling Center.
Yes.
Wow, I predicted 45 minutes on this agenda item. So.
Do you want to set a third one for June the 6th?
Yes, I would say 23rd, 31st, and June 6th,
Okay.
All the 6 p.m.
all 6 p.m. I'll see the availability of the Storytelling Center.
Just a quick question, do we have to pay after hours at the Storytelling Center if we use it?
I'm sure I don't know.
We'll be,
Yes, we do.
yeah, we'll be charged
We'll be charged for a host.
after hours,
For their
yes.
staff, after hours, yes.
Well, we're just discussing this.
Yeah.
Tuesday nights is storytelling, so there will be somebody there.
We'll be in a different, yeah, that's true, somebody,
At least until 8:30.
okay.
We'll get all that worked out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. All right.
All right, Alderman, you've heard the dates we've agreed on. Can I get a motion to approve those 3 dates?
So we're talking about 23rd, 31st, and 6th, correct?
Yes.
I'll second.
All right, got a motion to approve from Alderman Dixon and a second from Alderman Wolf. Any discussion? Call for the vote, Mr. Recorder.
Alderman Dixon.
Aye.
Alderman Wolf.
Aye.
Alderman Collins.
Aye.
Alderman Cameron.
All right, motion carries. All right. Next item on our agenda is discussion and possible action concerning approval of the renewal of the International Storytelling Building lease. And Alderman, you can see that, we're just wanting to kind of look at that a little bit longer, so we want to approve extending the current lease agreement for 1 month and come back in June to...
I want to speak to this. So reading through the presentation here tonight, there's several things that were outlined as potential needs. Some of them were a little expensive. There was some discussion in the letter from Storytelling that was very nicely done about wanting to have an escrow created from the monies that, get this right, monies that Storytelling would pay for the lease that are over our debt service for the loan, and then use that escrow money to help with repairs and things. So, did I get that right?
Yes, you did.
Okay, very good. You know, I was flipping through those documents and noticed my signature on the last page of it. And that's been a while. It's 10 years ago. It's hard to imagine, but it's been 10 years. And that was dark. Your name was on there too, Bill, as chairman of the board for Storytelling. Those were some dark, dark days for Storytelling. And you know, on our town logo, Storytelling Capital. And we're proud of that. And that's very important. It's become part of our identity. And thank the good Lord above that, you know, somebody had the vision to start that started in Jonesborough. And we're very, very thankful for it. But there was an assumption made in that letter. And the assumption was made that we were of a similar mind that Sandy was to continue the relationship as landlord and tenant. It's been 10 years. And I think we at least need to have a discussion about, are we comfortable, because, you know, the building is getting older. And it is, I think, noted in there that there's several fire alarm expenses, control panels, sprinkler heads, all this stuff. You know, there's going to be more of that. We need to acknowledge, and deliberately so, whether or not we want to continue to be responsible for this relationship where we're a landlord and we have a tenant. Especially, you know, this is what I do for a living, but especially, and it's fine, I'm not negative, but especially when it's talked about in terms of, well, you're not going to really, any savings from the or any payments, lease payments made above debt service would be put in an escrow to be put back into the building. You know, just, we need to say, okay, we're willing to do this because of economic development reasons. Or we need to say, well, the building's getting older, you know, we need to come up with maybe a schedule, have an engineer or an architect look at the building and say, here's some expected expense type things, just make an informed decision here. Or we need to say, you know what, maybe it would be a good time for, you know, this organization to purchase this building. Because the whole point of our owning it was to save it from being sold on the courthouse square, which is where it was headed, let me just tell you. And I was intimately involved in making sure that that didn't happen. And glad to do that, very, very glad to do that. And we bought it, I think there was a $5 million debt, we bought the building for $1 million. So the value was there, and the value has been there for the taxpayers of Jonesborough, and they've been, you know, we've been able to realize the benefit of this arrangement without the town having to expend Except, Craig, when we're putting in a new floor, and we're doing that, and it was acknowledged that a work crew was used, but in the letter, but it wasn't acknowledged that town staff spent a lot of time managing that project, that the wood is stunning. It greatly improved the building. And I'm sure y'all have seen it. But Craig Ford and a prison crew spent a lot of dang time doing it. And so there is a value there that's probably not been represented in the letter. So, we just need to make sure everybody is deliberately thinking about the greater context of the relationship, and that we're comparing apples to apples, and that we don't make any assumptions with each other. And then when we do decide to do something, then everybody's on the same page. So I think there needs to be a bigger discussion than probably a 1-month deal is going to take, Glenn, I'll just tell you, no offense.
No offense taken.
Okay, and so I would say that we kick this can down the road till after the budget, and then talk about it in terms of a broader kind of discussion. So I'd like to see the lease extended for, a little bit longer, maybe 2 or 3 months, and then we can have that discussion without, kind of an artificial time pressure.
Alderman Wolf is going to remind you, at the same time we did that floor, if you remember that, a quote for $65,000 or $70,000 to replace that front deck, and we spent $11,000 on material and put it down with the crew.
Yep, absolutely. You all greatly improved the building. It's stunning. It's awesome. A bunch of painting. I think the inmates did painting too.
Yes, sir.
So anyway, bigger context.
Are you recommending more like up to 90 days?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
If storytelling's good with that, it probably makes sense if we don't rush us. Gives us time to get the lease or consider what Kelly's.
Yeah, I'm just saying there's a broader context to
Absolutely.
So. Anyway.
You gonna make that motion?
Well, hey, I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we amend this presentation to include an extension for 90 days instead of 30. And I would recommend that as written in with that change for approval.
Okay.
I'll second, Mayor.
All right, got a motion from Alderman Wolf and a second from Alderman Dixon to extend that for 90 days versus the 30 in the agenda items. Any discussion on that? If not, call for the vote, Mr. Recorder.
Alderman Wolf.
Aye.
Alderman Dixon.
Aye.
Alderman Collins. Alderman Calhoun.
All right, motion carried. So we've got 90 days there, so let the Storytelling Center know that. Sure. Appreciate that, Kelly. Okay. All right, next item on our agenda is discussion and possible action concerning approval of a change order for the Jackson Theater project. And it's just something out of the sprinkler system, $4,300. It seems like something we have to do and need to do. Any discussion on that?
Move for approval.
Yeah,
Got a motion to approve from Alderman Wolf. Get a second?
I'll second.
Second from Alderman Dixon?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So now I just got Adam the second.
There you go.
Against his will. No, I'm just kidding. One point that Alderman Dixon did mention, there was a previous change order of $14,200, which was an initial, this probably goes back, let's just say 2 years from the time that the inmates had stopped over there. So I think the $4,300 that's recognized in today's agenda should really, in my opinion, add the other $14,200 that's already was a previous change order in the project.
Was that not approved in the past?
I don't recall it. It's probably been a couple of years. The $4,300 I did recognize this time when it came through and pulled it for a change order.
Okay.
Which I think reflects what the write-up of Mr. Browning was.
So we wouldn't be approving it twice, we'd just say in case it wasn't approved.
Correct, recognize the previous change order and then the current or newest change order of $4,300.
And that is listed here as well.
Yes, it's in the standard change order.
Yep. I'll amend my motion to reflect in case it wasn't approved before, the 14.2 then. Thank you. Good catch, Adam.
Is this money in the budget?
So anything on the Jackson project that's going to go over the contracted price, we'll have to reconcile it again. There is no contingency left in the Jackson project. So typically you would reconcile before the project ends. So, let's just say 60 or 90 days before the project ends, all the different change orders will come in and say where we are on the project. Otherwise, any change orders in Jackson, if we don't approve it, will basically stall the Jackson project. There is no contingency, basically, in that project that's been going on for, 3 years now, or longer than that, but...
$4,300, you can find that in the budget to pay, right?
Sure, I can find $4,300 in the budget to pay.
Where is it gonna come from? I mean, we're not taking away from something else, are we?
You're asking questions that I can do a deep dive of the entire budget, which is what our budget amendment is, but I can't tell you what line item it is.
No, I understand, as this goes on, it concerns me because there are so many places in our budget where people need more people to position them. And if you keep taking away from someplace else, the chances of adding personnel, which we need to, because as we grow, the number of citizens, the number of staff needs to be supported at an equal amount, and I'm always have fought for quality of life and will continue, but with our current tax structure, we're struggling.
Can I ask that maybe during our work session, that we can get the figures on the Jackson stage door? And an accurate figure. I know some have been sent out to me, but I know it's a lot. And I know it's not your fault.
No, I don't know how much more accurate we can get. I've spent tens of hours trying to figure out a project that has so many moving parts and spinning plates to try and capture everything that is expended that goes through the finance department office. We should have an accurate read on that project, that code. If you went in tomorrow morning, what's the current on that 6317 project, you would have all the purchases or all the expenses that we've done on that project that hit the books of that particular time. That's probably in the financials too.
Well, it's also important to remember as you go through the budget year, because something's in the budget doesn't mean that it has been spent in this budget year. There always will be slack where folks are not spending their entire budgeted amounts. There's a great deal of flow of give and take back and forth on that, and I know in days past there's always been a decree of stop spending money. I think you heard that. I've heard it. And when the stop spending money comes out, then that says, hey, you pretty much missed the boat and it's time to rein it in. Have we told people to stop spending money, Glenn?
Yes, we have.
Okay. So
we've also not spent on other projects that are on the books for this fiscal year in order to pay on other projects that we know that are probably going to go over.
Okay.
I do want to reflect that we've not hired anybody or done anything on the personnel for FY23. Everything is, as far as personnel matters or services to the general public has not gone, hindered or idle or been reduced in any way based on our projects. But, if it was my option for projects, in the future is there's a plan, there's a budget, and there's a pretty good-sized contingency based on material costs that are occurring since COVID. So we're just trying to get to the point where we can finish projects that have been
gets far enough along, we'll have a plan that we develop to deal with it.
Eventually.
Well, I know there's been Persimmon Ridge, there's money set aside for that we're not using. Our park probably won't get built this budget year for sure, so that's falling into next year, so that money that was set aside, so, certainly can find the $4,300 there.
Once you guys take the classes that I took from Nashville, you'll understand why I'm asking that question.
Yeah.
We got a motion and a second.
Yep. Motion and a second. Any other discussion? Call for the vote, Mr. Recorder.
Alderman Moore.
Aye.
Alderman Dixon. Alderman Coleman.
Pass.
Alderman Calhoun.
Motion carried. All right. Next item on the agenda is discussion and possible action concerning approval of the 2023-24 employee health care plan. Looks like we're making a slight change there from United Healthcare. The recommendations go to Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Hello, Blue Cross.
As of what is this going to cost the employees more?
Yes, sir. United started off with 19.5% increase. Then eventually, I'll just say, tried a strong on them, got down to 14.5%. That was a no shop, which means if we take 14.5 and don't ask anybody else for their rates, and thought that was not reasonable. So in the best interest of the town, basically opened it up and received a quote from Blue Cross Blue Shield, and my immediate goal was to be under 10% increase. And so Blue Cross Blue Shield came in at 8.53% increase. So you have a 14.5 United Health, 8.53%. Blue Cross Blue Shield, and the only difference is a $5 more for an office visit. But really that'll be absorbed because the vision and dental went up on United Health, but Blue Cross Blue Shield matched the current rates of vision and dental, so those won't be increased. Challenging year, but took about 8 weeks to train.
All I'm going to say is great job.
Yeah.
When you cut an increase, a projected increase to down below 50%, that is remarkable. And thank God for competition.
Yeah.
Is the other thing. Healthcare is a enigma wrapped in a mystery, tied up in a riddle a lot of times in terms of how its finances work. But if you hadn't done that, Glenn would be stuck with quite a bit bigger bill. So great job. And thank you, Lyman, for what he's doing. He's doing great.
And Robert and Craig.
Craig.
Well worked it. Myself and Lyman more in the backdrop, but everybody colluded on it, so it went very well. And just to give an idea, just as far as an employee, the employee yearly increase for just employee only for a year is $157 for the year. Employee plus one is $314, and family is $457 for the year. So, although I would say not terrible, not awful in a time where it could have been double.
Well, I'll just say this. Most of us outside of the public sector are paying a $5,000 deductible before you get any coverage these days. And that's right out of your pocket.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Yeah, really going to be just switching to Blue Cross Blue Shield. They give great service.
Better.
Yeah, it's an improvement over where we was. And really look at, family coverage, $457 is an increase, but man, over 52 weeks, less than $10 with the way things have been going the last 12 months, it's probably a miracle, actually.
Yep.
All right.
I make the motion we approve as presented with a hearty thank you to those involved.
Second.
Got a motion to approve from Alderman Wolf and a second by Alderman Causey. Any other discussion? Call the vote, Mr. Recorder.
Aye. Alderman Causey.
Aye.
Alderman Calhoun. Aye. Alderman Dixon.
Aye. All right, motion carried. All right, now we'll move into discussion and possible action concerning the 2023 wetlands water park season. As you see, we got several recommendations there. Just speaking of the inflation and how it affects things, well, it's certainly going to impact a place like wetlands where You have labor costs, you've also got food costs, things have been hit hard. Looking at the recommendations there, they all seem like things we can do. The only thing I would ask is the cafe menu items. I think the pricing, there's probably some things there that were probably underpriced still. I think looking at the food costs is only part of it. You got to look at how you package that food. And some items in there, if it's $3.30, Craig, it should probably be $3.50 or $4. Just round those things off. And it's easier for customers would rather spend by the dollar than worry about change when they're out there at the water park. So if I had to add anything, that's that point number 2 right there, menu items and pricing, I would just allow any increases you deem necessary as well. That's my opinion.
We can bring any changes back to the next meeting in their monthly report or something, if we make any changes.
I'll leave my little list here. But Alderman, what's your pleasure there?
I move to approve.
A motion to approve from Alderman Countermine.
Second.
Second from Alderman Causey. Any other discussion? Call for the vote, Mr. Recorder.
Alderman Cameron.
Aye.
Alderman Carlson. Alderman Jackson. Alderman Wolf.
Aye. All right, motion carried. All right, now we'll move into discussion and possible action concerning approval of the Visitor Center reorganization plan.
You know what you're signing up for.
Hey, I don't know, after 50 years, I'm not real sure.
Hey, I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Seriously.
We need to schedule the storytelling for us before we reorganize this plan.
So,
Yes, sir. Okay.
so I'm understanding, reading between the lines, that you're still going to be kind of drifting between the visitor center and doing events.
Correct.
Okay,
So
great.
it'll be, for the visitor center and ticketing, which I've been doing, and that would kind of fill in more of the day-to-day type thing.
Because not only do you have a lot of institutional knowledge in that regard, you're really good at what you do. And so it's something that's very extraordinary to get to keep both those things intact as you engage in another activity. So, thank you.
Get to spread her talents out to 2 different areas. That's great. Alderman, any questions or comments? If not, you can see we've got the recommendations there. I'll take a motion.
Motion to approve as presented.
Motion to approve from Alderman Wolf.
Second.
Second from Alderman Causey. Any discussion? Call for vote, Mr. Recorder.
Alderman Wolf.
Aye.
Alderman Carlson. Alderman Cameron. Alderman Jackson.
I was just going to say, there were 10 recommendations, but we just approved them all. Very good.
They're in there, baby.
All right, next item on the agenda is discussion and possible action concerning approval of the sewer easement and property for a roadway through the Swaniker property. And 2 important projects there that relate to our school project, and really just one issue that we're always going to have here in the town of Jonesborough probably going forward is just traffic issues. So some things here will impact that.
Well, if I may, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
This is a very, very, very big deal for us. Their new school, which is going to be a focal point of a lot of activity around town, needs as many entrance and exit points as it can, major ones, to be able to help traffic flow in an orderly manner so we don't create bottlenecks. And I count maybe 3 at this point. This will give it a 4th way to flow, and more importantly, it'll tie it into Boones Creek Road, which there's some potential that that road could receive some significant funding from TDOT here in the near future to actually provide it a major upgrade that could potentially include a center turn lane through most of the road, especially in the city limits. So a lot of moving parts here, but I want to tell the mayor, really appreciate his efforts on negotiating with the Swaniker family. And that property's been in their family for a long time. And when you have property for a long time, there's some sentimental and emotional value attached, and a lot of misgivings, I'm sure, when you're seeking to make a change. So I knew Miss Rose Pridgeon very well, went to church with her for a long time, and that was her home place. And, we're, I think, with this path honoring this Jonesborough family and the legacy that they had with the property, and at the same time improving our community. So, good job.
Thank you, Kelly.
Yep. And I'll make a motion, we approve as presented, unless Mr. Wheeler has anything else to...
There was no recommendation, so you don't have anything presented yet.
Okay, well, we have two documents.
You do, and they're not based on the figures that you last heard when you were giving individual reports, so it might be, some aldermen may not even know that now, if they haven't read this yet.
Okay.
So, as we went through this negotiation, I reported to each of you individually, but in the final negotiations over the weekend, the family went to a total of 110, which is 10,000 more than what we had discussed with you individually. So you need to be aware of that. It's divided between the two contracts, 10 for the sewer easement and 100 for the road, both the construction easement and the actual fee, the actual ownership of the land where the road is. That gives you control of that road more than a right-of-way does. Nobody has a right to just put an entrance to it. They have to come through you to get to it. So that's the reason we do that often when we're buying property for a roadway. So those two agreements are there for your consideration, and if you're ready to do that, now that I want to make sure everybody knew that we had gone up on the amount.
So basically, we're providing a fence as kind of an extraneous part of this agreement, correct?
That's
fence and gate.
They do run cattle on the property, so
that's right.
That be a temporary fence for the sewer easement, obviously, and then on the roadway, we'll put up a temporary fence during construction outside the construction boundary, and then move it once construction's completed to the actual route.
Can Glenwood build fence?
I'm sure he can put up a cattle
just checking.
One thing with this family, as Kelly said, this farm's been in their family for decades, and they're not developers, and most people, when you have a road go across your property or a sewer line go across your property, it increases the value. That meant very little to this family because they're just sentimental to it, as Kelly said. And so for them to basically give up 2+ acres to go right through the middle heart of their farm, it was a great commitment for them, and we certainly appreciate that because it will help the flow of traffic in Jonesborough, and certainly the safety of the students there at the Jonesborough School.
Plus, it's going to provide potentially a lot of access, pedestrian access, that will end up going all the way downtown. Some plans that I've seen that have been submitted to TDOT as in form of a request show a new walkway being built out Boones Creek Road all the way to the interstate. And that'll come down, go up this new access road we're going to the school, and of course the new access road ties down potentially downtown May Drive, Barkley Creek, and ends up downtown Jonesborough. So you've got a lot of really exciting quality of life potential there by being able to expand our walkway system quite a bit.
And that walkway system would tie into Johnson City's Tweety Trail up there, so it's anybody with some biking opportunities there too. So,
yes, Jim. One last point. We don't have signatures yet, but they have sent emails, each of the individual family members saying that they are signing, and we'll get those to us once they get them notarized. The sewer easement is critical to get started on as quickly as possible, so if there is any type of breakdown in this agreement, we would be probably holding a call meeting and asking you all to take some action.
Well, I'll reiterate my motion. I move to approve these two documents we were presented as presented, and that is our acceptance of the negotiation. So that is in form of a motion.
All right, got a motion to approve both documents by Alderman Wolf. Got a second from Alderman Countermine. Any other discussion? I call for the vote, Mr. Recorder.
Alderman Wolf.
Aye.
Alderman Cameron. Aye. Alderman Causey. Aye. Alderman Dexter.
Aye. All right, motion carried. Appreciate that, Alderman. Next item on the agenda is discussion and possible action concerning approval of a potential agreement with Darrell Bills.
How long have we been working on this?
Yeah, this is something, it was a mess, but Jim's really done a good job on this.
And we need to make it clear, there's no deal, this is just approving an offer, and he may or may not take this.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, we're not likely to collect these, potentially never. If the properties are completely destroyed and sell at a fire sale, we may never collect the amount that he owes now in fines. He's sitting in jail this evening. He was ordered this morning. He'll be released daily during weekdays from, I believe, 8 to 5 or 9 to 5. Only allowed to go to the property and work on the property. But we did, that we don't anticipate that much will happen.
Yeah.
So this was a way we thought maybe to give him some incentive to do
I
that.
applaud the creativity.
Thank you.
How much control do we really have over who he sells it to?
We have no control over whether he even sells it,
Right.
but it'll be the waiving of these fees. We do have one step. We're going to be going into court asking for a judgment on the fees. The fees were ordered by the court, but they're a civil penalty, so we'll get a judgment for those and file a judgment lien. But and then we would waive that lien down the road somewhere if he sells it in something we are agreeable to.
So to tag on to Terry's comment, you don't get to determine who he sells it to. There could be a potential ruse.
No potential, no owners that are present now, right?
Right.
Correct. And that's, and you're going to give Glenn the authority to handle this. So what we would do, I think we'll go ahead and file the lien, so we will have control on deciding whether we're going to lift the lien. So you all,
Based on who owns it and what they're doing with it after he sells it, is that what you're saying?
well, no, it'll be before it'll be as he sells it.
Okay, okay.
It would be lifted as part of the closing.
Okay,
That we will waive that lien.
Okay.
It could be able to tell a potential buyer that we're agreement for that if he uses the
Okay.
origin. But again,
But if it's not a real sale, if it's Buddy or something, what's our recourse there?
well, we
Nothing.
could somebody pull something on us? That's possible, because we're not going to be able to get into the middle of that sale.
That's right.
But we could ask, we could even ask to see the settlement statement. We could ask to see the contract, that type thing, to try to, ferret out whether it's an actual sale or
Well,
not.
you're making forward motion, and that's to be applauded. It's probably not bulletproof, but it's very good. So,
Well, it's a great offer to him, because we're going to be at about, we think by the time we pass for that judgment and get into court, it'll be about $75,000 in fees.
wow.
So if, it's a great incentive, but Mr. Beals is just not, there's just no telling whether he'll.
Right.
Now, who's the additional owners, the other family members?
It is, and they will not get involved at all. They're quite frankly afraid of him. So,
But they'll have to agree to sell as well?
I just didn't want him to waive his interest in it, or quit claim deed it to them.
And walk away from it.
And get us to, or not walk away from it. See, they won't challenge him being there. So he could quit claim it to them, and then he just stays on, and then we can't get much of anything with him at that point.
Well, that's why
But we understand the family's dilemma. We've tried to work around that, and this is a forward way to work around
If it
that.
continues to deteriorate, is condemnation not an option?
We want to pay if you want to.
Pay to clean it up.
You're going to have to answer Alderman Collins' question about where's the money coming from.
Well, in the future sometime.
No, you would not only pay to clean it up, but if you condemn, if you actually use condemnation,
You're paying
you
for the
pay for the property. And you're going to have a use, a public reason for what you're going to use it for. So, there are other, at some point, he'll get to the point where we could have the house, determine it's not fit for public, for him to live there and possibly tear the house down, but we still got the property sitting there. And part of the problem is when you get liens for things like that, for cleaning it up, you can't turn around and force the sale. It's still sitting there. The judge did order that we can take the vehicles off, and that's not just where we go out the next day and take them off. We're working through a process with the chief, and at some point we will remove vehicles. We would much rather him do that because we'll get sued over tearing up that $1 million RV before it's over.
We've dealt with situations like this before. Timber Ridge subdivision comes to mind. And it's typically you're not going to find a silver bullet to deal with it. It's typically an ongoing thing. There's all kinds of issues, circumstances, things that are person into the situation. But I applaud the effort here. I think it's very creative. I think it's moving in the right direction. We just have to hope it takes. And I'll make a motion that we approve as presented.
All right, we've got a motion to approve the recommendation. Alderman Wolf, second from Alderman Countermine. Any other discussion? Call for the vote, Mr. Recorder.
Alderman Wolf.
Aye.
Alderman Counterman.
Aye.
Alderman Collins.
Aye.
Alderman Dixon.
Aye. Motion carried. I got 3 more items here. Next item is discussion and possible action concerning approval of the proposal from Clark Nexton Architects to design the concessions/restrooms at the Jonesborough K-8 school athletic complex. Alderman, you can see the cost there, and for me, I tend to think that's too much, but
It's a lot of money.
I'll let some discussion on that. Glenn, you can tell me whether or not we can offer an amount counter back to that, or?
My opinion is no. Mr. Browning has gone back and forth with them probably 3 or 4 times, about 25 different emails, to get it to where the $93,000 is a lump sum total, so that if it, at some point, if it was going to go over the $93,000 or the budget costs of the concessions was going to go over, then there was originally an amount of 10% additional fees beyond, so $93,000 was a lump sum, get it done. Whether or not $93,000 is high,
It is.
it is.
But, you know what, the nature of this project, when you're talking about spending $42 million on a school, proportionally speaking, sorry to interrupt you, proportionally speaking, it's high. It's probably not the smartest thing in the world as far as a fee for designing a concession stand and whatnot, but that's the nature of the project we're in. We've never done anything like this before. And it's a big project. These guys are set up. They've done the rest of it. And I think this is just part of the turf we're on with this deal.
They are outstanding, but I tell you, the cost of I went and visited the Boones Creek, the new Boones Creek school, where they're building the concession stand out there now, and Jim's aware of that. The concession stand they're building there is, I don't know, what, $700,000. I just don't see where in the world they're getting that kind of money for a concession stand. It's bathrooms and a small concession stand.
Well, you got a commercial kitchen in it.
Ours at Boones Creek, I don't know. They can't have much in that thing, but the kind of money they're talking about to build a concession stand, $750,000 or more, I just don't see it.
You get into these big projects, you've got all kinds of engineered requirements. Our funding requires a certain level of architectural documents. RD rural development requires certain standards. The state fire marshal's inspecting these things, so it's big time. It's big time.
I'm probably good with Clark Nexton because I know the talent that they have there, but we should encourage them to design a concession stand that's
not stupid
not
expensive.
$750,000. It can be a $500,000 concession stand and be pretty nice. We just built two buildings up at Lincoln Park. I'm not sure that they had to be two buildings for less than $1 million, I guess, but that whole park was about $1 million. So we need to, that'll be our design team. They need to design it to where we can save some money on that.
I mean, one of the benefits this time around, if you remember the school project in its totality, is where COVID hits and it was $10 million more for the project costs and architects received more, construction manager or owner's representative received more. That was based on the contractual price. So I guess the positive of this was going back and forth with them and coming up with a lump sum, but it's very hard. I mean, when you have a projection on a building budget of $775,000 for 1,600 square feet, you do try and wonder, I could build a mansion, but really it's the components inside. But that's the price to try, and the hard part is trying to pivot. Clark Nixon on the ground for the last several years with us to pivot with another architectural firm, let's say, or try and do something.
Well, you start from scratch. We can't start from scratch. We're going to get this.
We'd be stalled. We'd be chasing our tails. So, my recommendation is to approve the lump sum.
I'll make a motion to approve the presentation as presented.
I'll second it and applaud Mr. Rosenbaum for having that funding in place for this one.
Yes.
I'm 1 for 3.
That's not bad.
Not bad if I was playing baseball.
All right, we got a motion by Alderman Wolf to approve, a second by Alderman Causey. It's a $93,000 fee, if anybody wants to know. That's kind of what that is, so. Any other discussion? Call for vote, Mr. Recorder.
Alderman Wolf.
Aye.
Alderman Collins.
Aye.
Alderman Campbell.
Aye.
Alderman Nixon.
Aye. All right, motion carried. Next item is discussion and possible action concerning the traffic circle and northern lane for the Jonesborough K-8 project. That's, we've got a dangerous intersection there at North Cherokee and Skyline. It's got a big raise. It's got a blind spot. It's always been part of the school plan to fix that intersection as we built the school and kind of shift it a little bit and put a circle there. Makes it much safer. And
it'll be the safest that intersection's been in my life.
Oh, no doubt.
I'll just tell you.
And the northern lane's the one that runs above the school and goes out to the athletic fields. So we've already seen the recommendation there, and I agree with it. We got the funds there to do it. We've been fortunate that we've been blessed by that land.
Let me just, I want to applaud Burwell just for a second. That is one top-notch, well-organized construction outfit. And they've got their stuff together. They've been with us from the get-go, doing an excellent job managing this project. And as we get closer and closer to completion, when you got your stuff together on a project like that, you get opportunities to do things like this because you have your act together. And so this is a great example of us benefiting from the quality of contractor we hired to build this school. So I applaud them. I think Mr. Browning's doing a great job with it. Lynn's okay too. And, just kidding, you're great, Lynn. And I'll make a motion we approve as presented.
All right, we got a motion to approve from Alderman Wolf. Second from Alderman Causey. Any other discussion?
Mr. Mayor? Sir. Really, the presentation was subject to the town attorney's review approval. I reviewed that, spent a lot of time today. One thing that I wanted to say this to get it in the minutes, one of the things that, a question come up about being with this is not necessarily in the scope of the original contract with the builder. Was there any problem? Do we need to do this? And we've looked at that, talked to MTAS today extensively, and because this is expense neutral, in other words, it's coming out of the builder's contingency, and it's not costing the town anything, that there was no need to bid that. So we'll put that in there.
Well, the good news we're talking about there is that, as Kelly said, Burwell's done a great job over there, and they're accumulating some savings over there. So a lot of those savings get put right back into the project, and thankful for them and others. All right, we got a motion and a second. Call for vote, Mr. Recorder.
Alderman Wolf. Aye. Alderman Coleman. Alderman Counterman. Aye. Alderman Dixon.
All right, motion carried. Last thing is the one we added to the agenda. It's a resolution on the general obligation capital outlay note. Most of that's there. We need I guess a lot of ARPA funds are slow to coming in from the federal government, so Glenn, you want to speak to that?
I can defer to Robert. He's worked very hard with municipal bond fund for this agenda item.
We've been expecting reimbursement of ARPA funds since about January after the board's approval, but the process has taken longer and longer to complete, and Glenn and I have gone back and forth with community development partners who's been handling this on our behalf, and we're still waiting on confirmation for when the funds will be received. Given the town's other obligations that it has to meet, we wanted another option should we have to issue the note, just for a baseline of security should the other ARPA funds not come in and we need it.
Makes sense, Robert?
All about cash flow, baby.
It is. All right, you see the recommendation there, Alderman?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve from Alderman Counterman, second from Alderman Dixon. Any discussion? Call for vote, Mr. Recorder.
Alderman Counterman. Aye. Alderman Dixon. Aye. Alderman Coleman.
Aye.
Alderman Wolf.
Aye.
All right, we accomplished a lot tonight, Alderman. Appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.
Good.